Thank you for joining us. In this information and misinformation age, the need to promote an understanding of the challenges and reality that Israel faces every day in a rough neighborhood is certainly more important than ever, and public diplomacy and PR are essential in this cause. Joe Berkofsky, the CEO of Puder PR, and Oren Kattan are going to tell us more about this following these messages.
Human age reversal. We may be there already. Human studies are now ready to begin to confirm meaningful reversal of pathological aging processes. These clinical trials aim to alter older humans so that they function as much younger individuals. Even modest success will result in a paradigm shift that will impart enormous societal benefits, such as sparing Medicare from insolvency. Life extension is not standing idle while 5,000 Americans die each day from age-related illnesses. Joining us are physician scientists who want to hurry up these technologies to keep people from aging to death. While life extension is pushing these projects forward, we need financial help to ensure these studies are carried through to fruition.
Carrier asks, what does comfort mean to you? Is it a cool breeze on a scorching day? Or a cozy corner on a cold night? That every room of the house is as inviting as the next. And the air is fresh and clean for everyone. That humidity is where it belongs. At Carrier, comfort means more than just the temperature. And the people who invented modern air conditioning keep inventing new ways to make you comfortable, however you define it.
Find magic again. Sprout by HP. With Intel RealSense technology inside, now you can bend the rules of creativity outside.
With us now is Joe Berkofsky, the president of Puder PR. A real pleasure to finally get you on the... Okay, CEO of Puder PR. Okay, great. Well, anyway, here we are at Mar-a-Lago. Thanks to you, I just interviewed Rabbi Eckstein, wonderful organization, International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. And there's this event coming on tonight, and people just don't really know the importance of what you do. Public relations in this world of so much disinformation is important. What are your thoughts on that?
First of all, I think it's PR probably has a bad rap historically. There's people typically think of public relations as being sleazy, or that it involves dirty tricks, or that it's somehow pulling the wool over people's eyes, and in fact it's what people now call fake news. But in fact that's the opposite of what PR is. PR is getting out stories. And our job, what we see our job, is getting out our clients' stories, whether it's the fellowship or other clients. We have a range of clients, Jewish organizations, nonprofits. We work with wine companies, we work with telco companies, sci-tech companies, and our feeling is, in the end, good stories are what connects with people. And our clients typically they come to us because they want us to help them tell their stories.
Yes, I'm sorry for interrupting you. It's so very important. In fact, speaking of bringing the stories out, thanks to you, we had the privilege of interviewing Mike Huckabee recently and Israeli generals at some of the FIDF events. Mm-hmm. Tell us more, please.
About FIDF?
Other organizations that you represent.
Sure. Well, FIDF is one of them, as you know. We also represent World Jewish Congress. We represent the Schusterman Foundation and the ROI community. We're currently working with Yarden Wines, probably the foremost winery in Israel. They really brought about the wine revolution in Israel, and just a range of other organizations. Basically, what we see our job is first helping an organization or a company define what their message is, define what their audience is, what messages they want to get to those audiences, how they want to reach those audiences, and then we really work with them to strategize about what channels do you want to use, what tactics, but really how you want to get your stories out there. It all comes down to connecting with people. And that's a big part of our job is, in today's, I'm just going to go back to the issue of fake news. And today, not only do consumers have to ferret through what's real and what isn't, but so does the media. And reporters, whether it's print or, as you know, broadcast, spend a lot of time either trying to find stories or trying to figure out the truth between what's real and what isn't.
And perpetrating lies by omission, half-truths.
Right. So really our job is to help reporters find good stories. And that's at the very bottom line what we see.
Let's talk about that for a moment, please. There seems to be a double standard where Israel is supposedly held to a higher standard, a compliment Israel could do without, I'm sure. But why is it that the media misrepresents the truth and dwells on negatives? And basically there is this greater need than ever for public diplomacy, hasbara, to promote a true image of Israel.
Look, it's not a new story, let's face it. Hasbara, that term has been around for decades now. And I think there's a sense that Israel somehow lost the narrative when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. These Palestinians are seen as the underdog, Israel is seen as the mighty occupiers, and that's become the narrative. And it's very hard to kind of dig out from a narrative once it's become entrenched and established. So Israel has a long way to go. Part of Israel's been doing the right thing in terms of telling other facets of its story, getting out the story of Israel being the startup nation and positive news. But going back to the beginning of your question, why is it that the media focuses on bad news? That's what the media does. It's dog bites man, or man bites dog. If dog bites man, that's not news. If man bites dog, that's news.
But there is a media war, it is said, a media war which is very threatening to Israel cumulatively as the months go by and public opinion and so many naive people are subjected to false information. With anti-Semitism on the rise, it is a danger. It's one thing to have soldiers defending the Golan Heights from enemies, but there's also a media war, and you are in this war yourself.
Listen, again, it goes back to telling stories and telling powerful stories and connecting with people and getting the truth out there. That's what it's about. And that cuts across every kind of story that you can tell. And, I'm oversimplifying it. I mean, when you day in and day out, public relations involves a lot of things. It's relationships, it's knowing people, it's, knowing who the reporters are at various media outlets and what stories they're working on and what kind of stories they tend to work on or be interested in, and you have to know your territory. And so it's complicated. It involves a lot of different strategies, but at the end of the day, winning the media war for Israel it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's a long-term strategy. As I said, I think Israel's heading in the right direction. But, you'll see this every couple of years. Israel will come out with a new Hasbara strategy. We've decided to do this. We've decided to do that. They're all well-intentioned. They're good. But at the end, it's not going to change things overnight. As I said, once a narrative becomes entrenched, it's a long-term process to change that around.
We have just paused for a moment. To our audience, I'd like to say we happen to be at Mar-a-Lago just as preparations are being made for this lovely event today, again, International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. Joe, what would you like to add?
I really think the important thing, today everybody talks about fake news and just how important journalism is, strong journalism, good storytelling, how important that is, and that people need to be informed. Our job, again, is to really help the media inform people, and I think that's the bottom line today.
Joe, before we conclude this conversation, share with our audience some of your background.
Sure. Well, I go back to the news business. That's how a lot of people in the PR business start out. Way back, they used to have these things called newspapers. I was a newspaper reporter in the Boston area, and worked my way through the print world, daily and weekly newspapers, and then I got into working in the internet when that started out. Did a lot of high-tech reporting and editing, and then I decided I was always interested in PR. I had worked with PR people, and decided to segue into PR. It's kind of a natural segue transition for a lot of people. You use a lot of the same skills. You're working in the same world. And in some ways, as I said before, it's about telling stories and connecting with people. So in some ways, the end result is the same.
And compared to so many other people in the PR world, what you are doing, Joe, is so very, very important. You're not just a PR company. You're doing something that's really essential in this troubled world. And I thank you so very much for being on our show.
Thank you.
I'll be right back. With us now is Oren Kattan. Oren, I finally got you onto the show. This is great.
Yes, it's taken us a while. How are you?
Fantastic. Wonderful event you put on here. It was absolutely phenomenal. One of the most heartwarming and spectacular events, galas, I've ever been to, really.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We worked hard, and it means a lot to hear that. I know you see a lot of galas.
I must apologize, my voice has kind of fallen apart a little, and we're here at the Diplomat Hotel doing this event for the FIDF. And today, after 70 years, how important is this to you?
For me, it means everything. I've dedicated close to 20 years of my life. My father is an Iraqi Jew that had to suffer through the Farhud. He moved with his 10 brothers and sisters to Israel and had to live in a tent for 4 years. For me, understanding that with no Israel, there's no safety for Jews around the world, and understanding that if we have a strong Israel, there'll be, will never happen again for real.
Absolutely, sir. And I was following your words on that stage today, and you spoke so eloquently, and it was so very, very moving, all the segments on the FIDF. Phenomenal. And of course, what Mike Huckabee said about that little girl who visited Yad Vashem when she was, I think, 6 or 7. Share with our audience what you remember from his speech.
Well, he spoke about a little girl who went to Yad Vashem, and how could they let this happen, I think is what she wrote in the book as she leaves. And it was, extremely touching to hear that and to see that a little girl realizes it, and then to realize that that little girl was his daughter, Sarah Huckabee, who now is our press secretary of the United States for the United States president. Just, means so much that they understand, that she has a father that really understands, and that she's there now, and with our president who seems to also understand really Israeli politics and has been a great friend of Israel.
And she's on a plane right now with the president, and there's no doubt that based on her life's experience, she really, having been to Israel, she knows what Israel's all about.
No question about it. So we're really blessed to have them, I think.
Now, you are very active in the South Florida Jewish community. Excuse me, my voice is like this today. But you're involved with many facets of this community. How are you treated by critics?
I haven't faced many. I mean, typically we're doing good on behalf of the soldiers or behalf of our community or the schools. So, I mean, I really don't care what critics have to say when you're doing charity work. Maybe sometimes with the political side and, my customer base, being, the president, you can get some, friction. But I think his actions have proven, well beyond, some of the words that people like to focus on. And I don't think we've seen a president that's been on the side of Israel like this before. And, that's maybe an area, but, I don't accept that because, his actions speak way louder than the beautiful words that we heard from the previous president.
Why are some people so exaggeratedly ferocious in their criticism on one side and very outspoken on the other? Why is it so intense?
I think people are scared of change. Change can be very scary. I mean, if we use North Korea as an example and some of the other stuff, but, you need somebody who can face the hard decisions and, move us forward and deal with these issues. I
recently had Alan Dershowitz on the show, and he's a Democrat, and he was very outspoken and said what he believes and was very much in favor of, Jerusalem being finally recognized as it should be as the capital of Israel by the United States, and with the embassy going to be moving there. And he said even his own relatives, some of them, are absolutely ferociously critical of him. He said, "I'm losing many friends. I call it the Trump diet." He's not invited to dinner as much.
I had a little bit of the Trump diet, but yeah, listen, it's definitely an interesting time, and I think people need to start to remember that we are part of the same, family, part of the American society, and we all want better, even if we disagree, for our great nation. And hopefully they can start to realign that and find the good in each conversation, because there's right on both sides. And I think what's made us great for many, many years throughout our history was being able to mend those ideas into one and really move ourselves forward. And it seems that people don't want to hear opposing views at this point.
It was very moving to see those segments on Holocaust survivors presented today at this gala that you produced, along with very comforting and inspiring images of Israeli soldiers defending the land of Israel. Why did you choose to do this?
To show, our group, here in South Florida that, it wasn't so long ago, everybody talks about the Holocaust as if it was something that happened long ago, but we had, people here in the room that experienced it. It can't compare to what, the previous generation went through. And, they came to a country without speaking a language, and they built themselves and they built their families up, but they also found time to help our charity and build, the state of Israel. So 70 years is their accomplishment. Now, the next 70 years is my generation and, the younger that need to show their accomplishments, and now it's our turn to protect her.
Speaking of generations and how things are developing in the world today, and of course, the Middle East, what's happening now is described by some people as quite a fantasy. What do you think?
It's a complete fantasy. We have a president who supports us and, finally recognizes Jerusalem as the capital as it should have been, because it's been our capital for 3,000 years. We have a United Nations that has lost its way. If you read Article 1 of their charter, they've completely forgot why they exist and almost need to be disbanded like the League of Nations. And finally, we have a president who's holding them responsible, for their actions. It's definitely like we're watching a fantasy.
Certainly, the United Nations, such visions of hope for the future, created to bring peace and communication, and what a disappointment it has become to so many people.
Complete disappointment. I hate to say it, but I believe it's a bit of anti-Semitism.
Before we conclude, what other causes do you support, Oren?
I support my children's school, which is a Jewish school, one of the biggest in the nation, and we feel that in our family, education is extremely important. If you look throughout history, through the great nations that grew and built, modern cities and modern civilizations like the Greeks and the Romans, and they're gone. But Jews, they build schools, they focus on education, and we're still here as a nation, so education is a big deal to us. Supporting cancer causes and, with young children in particular. We've had a scare recently with our own child, so that now has become a priority, and Israel is, our number one priority as a family.
We were speaking about health before, and our main sponsor, Bill Falloon of Life Extension Foundation, wanted me to give you this book on the trouble he's had with FDA and advancing therapies and cures and so forth. So at your leisure, take a look at this. And tell us a little bit more about how you see healthcare in general at this time.
It's interesting because currently, I mentioned to you that we had a health scare with our daughter. She's 20 months old, and we found a very rare neurological syndrome that's 1 in 10 million, and we've been in the hospitals for a few months. And on the other hand, I have a Holocaust survivor friend, Tibor, that was honored tonight, and he's 97, and he's been in the hospital also recently. And it's just incredible to see, the difference in care. It seems to be such a disconnect, and it seems like the insurance companies are really dictating the level of treatment you get. And
they treat the symptoms and not the cause so much.
Yeah, exactly.
To conclude on a happier note, tell us a little bit more about how you feel at the end of this phenomenal event that you put on.
It's a tremendous feeling. We've been working hard over the past year in order to try and fill the room. And we've got a tremendous response. The solicitation in the fundraising tonight was incredible, and really extremely proud of what our community was able to do. And we really thank them for supporting us and supporting our soldiers, especially on Israel's 70th anniversary.
From generation to generation, midor ledor.
Amen.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good to see you.
A real pleasure.
Human age reversal. We may be there already. Human studies are now ready to begin to confirm meaningful reversal of pathological aging processes. These clinical trials aim to alter older humans so that they function as much younger individuals. Even modest success will result in a paradigm shift that will impart enormous societal benefits, such as sparing Medicare from insolvency. Life extension is not standing idle while 5,000 Americans die each day from age-related illnesses. Joining us are physician scientists who want to hurry up these technologies to keep people from aging to death. While Life Extension is pushing these projects forward, we need financial help to ensure these studies are carried through to fruition.
This concludes our show for today. I'm Maya Brandt, and thank you for being with us.